picture 18th century France, we often imagine opulence, pastel silks, and salons glittering with gold. This fantasy owes a lot to Rococo art, a style defined by softness, pleasure, and charm. But Rococo was more than decoration. As Jennifer Milam explains in the Historical Dictionary of Rococo Art, the style offered escapist dream worlds filled with theatrical pleasure and erotic fantasy, providing emotional relief at a time when France was increasingly unstable. I'm drawn to Rococo because of this contradiction. While France was facing political tension, impending revolution, and social inequality, its art celebrated flirtation, intimacy, and play. In this video, I'll explain how Rococo artworks reveal the sexual mores of 18th century France, focusing on the ways women were imagined, eroticized, and idealized. My argument is this. Rococo painters used sensuality and fantasy to construct an idealized vision of femininity, presenting women as symbols of pleasure while also encoding the social and gender hierarchies of their time. Let's begin with Francois Boucher's The Triumph of Venus, painted in 1740. This work helped solidify the Rococo aesthetic: glowing pastels, delicate flesh tones, and swirling motion. According to Milam, Boucher regularly used mythology as respectable veil for erotic display. Venus's nude body becomes a socially acceptable sight of sensuality under the mask of classical storytelling. She is idealized and luminous, designed to be admired. Art historian Remy Cécilien described the Rococo as a dream of happiness, a world devoted entirely to pleasure. The Triumph of Venus embodies this, an erotic utopia where beauty and desire take center stage, but it's a dream, crafted through a distinctly male gaze. The goddess's body, smooth and perfected, becomes a template for feminine allure. This is echoed by Dawn Curry's research on gender and representation. Societies often project anxieties and desires onto female bodies. Boucher's Venus is exactly that, a fantasy, not a woman. Jean-Honoré Fragonard expands this visual language of desire in The Meeting, one of the Progrès au Love panels commissioned by Madame du Barry. Here, a young lover climbs toward a woman waiting on a terrace. The scene is charged with anticipation and secrecy. What makes this work particularly revealing is how it reflects the era's concept of clandestine romance. As Cecily notes, Rococo artists turned love into a playful game, a performance filled with coded gestures. Fragonard stages a desire as a theatrical, almost choreographed event. Unlike Boucher's mythological fantasy, The Meeting depicts real lovers, yet it still reinforces the era's expectations of femininity. The woman's posture is both modest and inviting, a balance noted by Milam as central to Rococo femininity. According to Cécilien, women in Rococo art often symbolize both temptation and restraint. The woman in The Meeting has agency. She clearly anticipates her lover, but her role still aligns with the gendered script. Men pursue, women respond. As scholars from University of Chicago Press note, Rococo art often relied on subtle erotic storytelling, implying desire rather than showing it outright. To understand how these ideals affected real women, we turn to Maurice Quentin de la Tour's full-length pastel portrait of Madame de Pompadour, mistress to Louis XV and one of the most influential cultural figures of the period. Unlike the coy lovers of Fragonard or the erotic goddess of Boucher, Pompadour is presented as intellectual and accomplished. She sits surrounded by books, musical instruments, and luxurious fabrics. Her gaze is direct and confident. Dominic Wittick's 2025 article on Rococo culture explains that aristocratic women often cultivated an image of refined intelligence to stabilize their social positions. Pompadour mastered this skill, and Latour's portrait reinforces it. Still, her authority is expressed through Rococo ideals: elegance, charm, and beauty. As Milam notes, Pompadour used portraiture strategically to craft public perception, balancing power with feminine delicacy. Even at her most influential, her self-presentation had to align with the period's aesthetic expectations. In this pro-quest thesis, they discuss how Rococo portraiture negotiated gender roles, especially for women in positions of influence. This portrait makes that negotiation visible. No painting better captures Rococo sexual playfulness more famously than Fragonard's The Swing. A young woman soars through a lush garden. Her pink dress billows as she kicks off her shoe. Her hidden lover gazes up from below, a strategically erotic vantage point. According to the Chicago Art Journal article, Rococo composition often creates a participatory viewing, making the audience part of the flirtation. The swing is a perfect example. The viewer occupies the same hidden position as the lover. This work shows the Rococo's habit of treating eroticism lightly, almost comically. As Wittig describes, Rococo art encourages viewers to delight in pleasures without consequence. But this fantasy was limited to the aristocracy. Real women in the 18th century did not enjoy the same sexual freedoms these paintings suggested. Dawn Curry's analysis helps us read this critically. She argues that societies often use imagery to mask inequalities through beautification. In The Swing, a woman appears carefree and empowered, but only within a fantasy world created by male patrons and male artists. Across Boucher, Fragonard, and Latour, we see how Rococo art constructed a vision of femininity centered on pleasure, charm, and erotic fantasy. Women appear as goddesses, lovers, muses, and cultural icons, but almost always within the constraints of male fantasy and social expectations. What makes Rococo so fascinating today is how its imagery survives in modern visual culture. Fashion photography, advertising, and social media still idealize women's bodies in ways reminiscent of Boucher and Fragonard. The pastel dream worlds of 18th century France continue to shape how femininity, beauty, and sexuality are imagined. Understanding Rococo art reveals the deeper structures behind these fantasies, showing how art reflects the desires and anxieties of its time and how those visions continue to influence ours.